Now I'll vectorize the sketch I made in Photoshop. I'll copy and paste it or place it to Illustrator. In Photoshop, I make a selection and copy with the copy merge command. I'll go back to Illustrator and paste it, Ctrl V. I can also place a saved file from File and Place. By default, the placed image is linked. It is not actually in the Illustrator file. If I want the actual file to Illustrator, I click on Embed. We use linked files when we have large Illustrator files with a lot of raster graphics. I lock the reference layer and create a new layer where I will start vectorizing the forms. I'll start with my geometric version. I use a stroke color that's easy to separate from the colors beneath. I start doing the forms with the form tools. I create a circle with shift pressed and a rectangle. The form of the character, I'll start with a polygon. With this polygon, I decide which is the center axis of the character. I will only create the other side, and later on I will mirror that side. I remove the black area by putting a rectangle on top of the polygon and using -front from the Pathfinder. I use the smart guides precisely. That's how I get this circle the same height as the rectangle. If you double click an object, you will end up in isolation mode. You can now only edit this form. You can leave isolation mode by double clicking on empty space. I again use -front now to remove the circle from the rectangle. Then I'll continue on the other forms. I create them with the pen tool or with the form tools. I'll round some of the paths with anchor point tool. I want to cut away parts of the corners. I can do this by adding an anchor point and then reshaping the forms a bit. Every now and then I swap the colors to check what the forms actually look like. I'll do the black area of the mouth first on top of the other forms, then I'll rearrange it with send to back. I select these basic forms, copy them and reflect them using the right-click Transform Reflect feature. Then I'll align the copies and unite them with the Pathfinder's Unite command. I'll undo a bit. I want to redo the bottom of the form. I'll now do it with two smaller circles and a rectangle. I'll also copy the dark areas symmetrically. Then I'll reshape the whole of the form. I'll do the teeth with ellipses and then reshape them. Sometimes I will only want to see the sketch by making the layer 2 invisible. I'll create a new layer for the eyes. I'll start creating the next character. I'll start it with circles on the bottom. I'll add a rectangle just from the bottom anchor points of the circles. The upper parts I'll freeform. I'll start designing the mouth also with the ellipse tool. The line-like forms on the eyebrow buttons are the most tricky. I had not designed them well enough in the sketch, and now I need to design them a lot in Illustrator. The first part of the chord I create with 4 circles and 2 rectangles. I'll check that everything is aligned and then I'll unite them. The chord itself I'll draw as a free form. I'll use the pen's teeth as a basis for the mouse's teeth. I design the mouth and the teeth. I want to remove the upper parts of the teeth. This can be done so that I make Illustrator think that the teeth are one object. I'll select them and compound path make. I'll copy the mouth, Ctrl C, Ctrl F, shift click the teeth to selection and intersect those forms. Next I'll continue with the freeform characters. They are a bit harder to execute. I'll create the topmost form and intersect it with the form of the shadow. That's how I get the shadow edge to be the same than the form edge. Next I'll do the dark areas and the top of the head. Again using Pathfinder to remove a slice. For extra 3D effects, I'll add blue forms that go beneath the black ones. Next I'll continue to the bottom parts. I make smart amount of anchor points and then edit them. Again I'll do the shadows by copying the bottom form and intersecting the shadow form with the copy with the Pathfinder. I'll create the lightest parts again on layer 3. If you have several layers, be careful not to jump from layer to layer by accident. You will end up on another layer if you click any of the forms on that layer. You can recognize the layer by the color of the path. My sketch was quite loose. I need to do a lot of designing in Illustrator. The teeth of this character I'll do in freeform with the pen tool. After I've done one of the forms, I copy it and then edit for the other teeth. I'll start the orange character in the same manner, creating the anchor points of the outline and editing them. Then creating the shadow forms. Clipping the edges of the shadow forms, I'll do a copy of the larger form and intersect this copy with the shadow form. The basic potato shapes, I normally start with the ellipse tool. I draw the chord. I'll create anchor points on both sides of the chords in quite opposite positions. It makes the editing way easier. For the teeth of the orange character, I use the teeth of the green guy. I edit them, and if needed, I'll remove anchor points with a minus pen. I again make a compound path by selecting the teeth, object, compound path, make, and intersect these forms with a mouth copy. I'm quite happy with the characters. I'll now recolor them. I change all the same colors at once. I'll first select a green object, then I'll go to Select, Same, Fill Color. Now all of the same green fill colors are selected. I can now change all of these colors at once. I'll just mix a new green from the color picker. I'll do the same with the lighter greens. Select Same Fill Color and then recoloring. I'll also change the orange color. I'll then refine some of the forms. I'll present these in a nicer manner. I resize the artboard and create cast shadows for the characters. I decided I want the cast shadows on the geometric forms behind them. I copy the whole of the form and unite it. Then send it to back and recolor it to be a shadow. I'll add and refine some text, and then I'll still continue refining the forms. It's quite time consuming to create perfect forms. The more precise your sketch is, the easier you have vectorizing. This is more true with the free forms.